did I just say that sometimes we're in that situation emotionally? That's a reality that we feel because of things that have worn us down throughout the day or 7 days or whatever it is. Okay? So, to follow the standard gives you a checkup. Why? Because it's like default. You want to default to the thing God says. Right? You don't want to default to what you really feel like doing. Especially when people are now, oh, you're a mechanic. Could you help me overhaul my engine? No. I've learned to say no. I'm not going to put a month of my lifetime away from my kids and things like that. You know, dude, I'll come over and help you occasionally, and I did. But to do a whole engine check, no. I've got a lot of things to do at home, as you can testify to that. It says, do not quench the spirit. Don't kill it. Work it. Because the spirit is here to do what? Help us. Assist us. Through the spirit we can do a lot of things. Of our own, what happens? We kind of break down. We don't accomplish things like we should. And I've tried to practice that in anything I do. Really. My sister just gave me my father's car. It's a 1992 Toyota Camry. Been sitting out there because he hasn't been able to drive. He's dealing with dementia and stuff like that. For days, I've been dealing with a problem with the vehicle. And yesterday, I honestly, you think mechanics, you don't need God's help. That's what we think. That's how humans are. And I prayed about that. Honestly, I did. Because I was already 3 days into that job. And I'm looking up problems, and I find an individual that goes, oh, you got to start relay. And the start relay needs like 4 things to be present for it to set itself, to allow you to start the vehicle. Where is the start relay? It's buried by the passenger side of the firewall. So you got to take all that stuff out. Because you know how engineers are. They figure you never ever need to work on that thing. So because the vehicle had been sitting for a few years, I figured, you know what? The last time my dad shut it down, the relays collapsed and closed. I got stuck. So I opened the thing, get there, pulled it out, and took a tool and went pow and hit it. Put it back, the pump comes out. I wasn't getting any fuel. So you see, I mean, I'm saying that the things that we believe that really God knows about mechanics, yes, He does. Mm-hmm. Will He help you if you had a problem? Yes. I told the pastor about when I was changing for the first time my timing belt on my truck for a week. Clamped it in the lines, lined up as I put it in, and I released the clamps. They moved over for a week, back and forth. And I laid in bed. I had a bad pain in my chest because, of course, when you're leaning over, the latch that closes the hood is right here. Let me tell you, and this is a week, I laid in bed because things come to your mind when you're in pain, right? And I prayed about it. I went out there within 10, 15 minutes, everything lined up. I don't make this stuff up. I can't. All right? So I know that in anything, when the Bible says, in all things, we must go to Him. Everything. Doesn't matter what. That's what relationship is. Isn't this, like I mentioned earlier? Part of relationship is God does His thing and I do my thing with the same mindset as much as a human has a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I have another good story that goes with what you're saying with my mother.
days. She was still driving at this point. She wanted to go to the church camp, small camp meeting, and it was about 80 miles from where she lived. And she kind of wasn't sure about the route to go, although she had traveled it with others, I guess, a number of times, so she was familiar in that sense. But she was not being sure, and then she realized that she didn't quite know how to do it, and she prayed. My recollection is that she knelt and prayed, and then it came to her, oh, I do know how to do this now, and she took off and made her way to the services that she wanted to go to. And I like that in conjunction with what you're saying, in that moment of need of inspiration or advisement, knowledge, that God just kind of downloads it, transfers it, and suddenly you have the understanding of what to do.
I'll give you one more example. I bought a compressor and it sat there for 8 months. The day I decided I needed it and I opened it up, the air intake is missing. I go back there, where's your receipt? I don't have the receipt. So we can't do nothing without the receipt. So over and over, I used to go to Home Depot, trying to work out what is it that I can put together to make an air intake. And it's really bothering me. And I'm going to drop the boys off at work, and I'm going south on Turnpike. And just as clear as day, it says, you're in the wrong department. Go to electrical. And I turn around and look at the boys. Hey guys, we need to go to electrical the next time we go to look for that to make it. Next time I go there, I tell the guy, listen, I can't tell him I'm trying to make an air filter. He's going to think I'm crazy. I said, I need a metal box that has holes in it so I can have many entries into the box. I'm trying to be, not a little stupid. And the guy was a Caribbean guy, had a sense of humor. He said, what you trying to make? I said, listen, I got this problem. What's your idea? I said, okay, I want this to make this. He says, he took me over where the electrical boxes were. And sure enough, they got like at least 4 holes. Why? Because you can run the electrical on different angles. So I got that part, I got the pipe, I got everything. I took it home. Still didn't have filter material. You know the scrunches that, or whatever they call that you bathe with, those stuffed it in there, closed it up, turned it on, works fantastic. You see, of my own, I couldn't do that.
No.
And when people tell you these stories, you look at them like, it's a little bit light upstairs.
Well, it's James chapter 1. If anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask of God.
Okay, that's what the Bible says, and then reality does what?
Well,
You see, this is what I'm saying. The human factor enters into the equation. It's only when we're...
But ultimately you did.
Yes, again, but like you said, James said, go first. I'm trying to do that. But this is as a human that has spent 41 years of his life fixing things. Okay?
In your own ability.
At my job, yes.
But in your training and ability.
Yes, so that is my go-to, that's my default. There are times that because there's so many airplanes that I work on, that, man, when I'm walking over there, I pray about it. The reason why is that the systems are so diverse. And I'm checked out on like 7 different aircraft. And then you're walking towards it and you're going over in your mind the knowledge, trying to kick that around. I'm telling you, when I pray, by the time I got to the airplane, who meets you there? The captain. Well, we have this problem. I said, yes, sir, I'm aware of it. I says, I'll take care of it for you right now.
He must love that.
They got attitudes. They really have a superiority attitude, and it happens quite often. And even in the environment of where you see individuals expose a little bit of racism. The guy that I went to help. He's a black Jamaican guy. I'm behind him. He walks in first, and he goes like this. Hey, I need this blah, 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 because I'm having this problem. And I go, that guy that's in front, he's an expert at that problem. He's going to take care of it for you right now. And then he backs off, see. He exposed himself. It becomes too obvious. And it's my character, but I won't let him get away with it. I say it nicely. Right? Because they have told me some really harsh stories, but you know, people are what they are. And I always tell my preferred to know that somebody's like that. But having politicians delegate what somebody should do. Why is that? Because now, because there's a law telling you that you must do this. I don't know who the guy is that now is facing me. Right? Because he has to be nice. He could be a tyrant, but I don't know that because now he's being, by law, delegated that he must do this. Now, if somebody is a tyrant, I want to know. I want to hear it from him. Right? And that's why sometimes little simple things become difficult. Do not treat prophecies with contempt. That's stuff for humans. I'll tell you why. There's a lot of things that just with the elections, a lot of people prophesied certain things that never came true. So people are a little bit what? Taken back. I gotta wait and see. Instead of trusting. And because of that, people have pulled away. Everything that happens does what? Pulls you away from Christians. Right? Everything that is happening pulls you away from Christians. And you hear it all the time. Christians are this, that, the other. Well, guess what? They said this 2,000 years ago. You should not be taken aback. Oh, they're hurting my feelings. As a Christian, you set that feeling apart, aside. Right? Because God tells you that it will happen. If it happened to him, you think it won't happen to you. Really? I guess we're going to find out something the harsh way. Because if they prosecuted him and did all these things, what do you think they're going to do to you? Oh, I don't know if that will happen to us. That's what the same people in the Dark Ages said. The Inquisitions killed 100 million Christians. Oh, but it won't happen to me. No. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. Yes, I find comfort in the fact that when God gets involved, right? Like when the Israelites were in Egypt, did they suffer the plagues? I think that infuriated the Egyptians even more because they were paying a heavy price for every plague. And yet these guys were out there cooking lambs and barbecues and the whole kit and caboodle, right? That infuriated them. And even worse, when they were leaving, they took their jewelry with them and their belongings. Because they got it from the Egyptians. Just an infuriating situation. But what is the end result of that? Who did the Israelites go to? God. Who did the Egyptians go to? Their God. How did that work out? How did that work out? Prime example. Large majority of Arabic countries, what do you see present when they show up the turban? Especially the villages. A lot of sand and stones. Right? We see even communities, like the Haitian communities, when years ago the politicians stated, we give our country to Satan. Where's your protection? Where's your protection? Where's Satan? Is he showing up lately? I don't think so. He has not done them well. Yes, there's a bunch of Haitian people that come to Christ. Right? Just like I've said this before, I've often wondered how can an individual, a Christian, go to a Arab country and witness for Christ? That's death, immediate. And they take care of their things quick. By noon tomorrow, you're beheaded. They don't waste time. Not like here, 25 years on death row. Don't happen there. You steal, by tomorrow, they'll give you a chance. They'll cut only one hand off. So, what ends up happening, what is their God doing for them? What is their God doing for them? Don't you ever make the connection? And then you stand there in these countries. Can you imagine why they hate America? Why they hate Israel? Right? Because regardless of what they do, their God continually protects them and helps them. And instead of saying, man, what I'm doing ain't working, let me copy what they're doing. I always use the example of in professional sports, everybody rides with the winner, even though you're not even from their state. You ride with the winner. Religion, God, Christianity is the only thing that people fight against, even though they notice these people are coming out ahead. Oh no, they can't have that. So what do? They pick a loser. A loser that they know what's going to happen in the end. They're aware of it. But we're going to fight this. They're going to show him. You see, and they read the book, and everybody has tried to show him what ended up happening. Okay? And still, they don't learn that the best thing to do is ride with God. The God, not any God. Because they don't have a problem with God. They love God. They're God, but not the God. The problem is Jesus Christ. Cannot have that. We will pass laws against that. Which they are. They are, by the way. Okay. So, back to but test them all, hold on to what is good, and reject every kind of evil. Why is that? Because we don't know all the evils. Right? I mean, there are things that pose as beauty queens that end up being not so much beauty queens. Right? They fool you by appearance, by verbiage. I'm always mindful of people that just talk for hours and hours and hours. Castro, Chiang Kai-shek, all these people, they could stand there and mesmerize people. Hitler for hours on end. I'm very mindful of those things. What are they hiding? Right? My wife noticed this. It's nothing to do with political. We were watching TV. And my wife goes, Obama has training. You know what? He says, no. I noticed that cadence. I says, cadence? He ain't even walking. He says, no. He says, what he's saying has a cadence. And what he does is uses words to what? Get to your mind. And you're aware of it. Right? Back in the 60s and 70s, what did they have? What they call what? Music backward masking. Backward masking was when you played a record, you hear the song, and the back of it, the late tracks. That's backward. Here's the funny thing about your brain. He sees this backwards and goes, I'll take care of that problem for you. And writes it. That's why you find people that they can read things backward as well as forward. Because they see it. It's easy. Their brain just fixes it and they just keep on reading like nothing happened. So in our lives, we have been suffering an onslaught that we're not even aware of, right? Because we have needed to do what? Have the prophets speak, warn us, tell us. Yes, I learned that through the Bible, but my part of it is finding out how is it being applied today. Why? Because the individual that's using music or visuals has been at it for a long time. Satan was in charge of music. You think he knows a thing or two how to use music? Even before I was a Christian, I recognized it. And I used it. Of course, to my benefit, not somebody else's. Because what music does is what they call auto-suggest. And they've used it, I've seen it on television. The guy was going to ask the individual a question. They had a taxi pick him up to take a specific route. And along that route, they had names of businesses. So when he got in the show, the guy asked him a question. And he goes, yeah, I believe this, that. And as he's saying it, the pictures are coming up of his taxi ride to the show. And he answered every single time what the suggestion was. He wasn't aware. He was not aware, and he got played. They showed him what happened afterwards, but it was too late. He had already exposed that he wasn't all there, as much as he thought he was. Right? Even in speech, what did they tell you? When somebody might be thinking one way, you auto-suggest something. Well, because these people have been doing this and they found it to be a good move. But that's not what I was thinking. But auto-suggest comes up and it tells you, no, this is the way for you to go. Right? And consequently, right, we have things that we always must be mindful of, like it says, evil. We don't know all the evils. But that's what the Spirit does. Remember, let me go back. And it says what? Do not quench the Spirit. Because when we don't know, the Spirit prompts you. Right? He warns you, he lets you know, hey, be careful of this. What else was used? And I'm not picking on any. One of the things that was used was what? Women in the Bible. Right? When the Israelites came and stood firm on what God has said, because they were winning battles over and over again, even though they were such a small army, what did the enemy do? He went to his soothsayers and they go, confuse them, send a woman in. And she would go in there within the group and they get more women in and involved to change them. The Samaritan, do a research on the Samaritans, what they were doing, why the Jews didn't like them. One of the reasons why. Because when they were trying to get rid of the Jews, they brought in Samaritans to change their belief system. That's why Jews hated Samaritans. They saw them as low down individuals. But when Jesus came, he changed all that. Right? That people should be judged on their merits. Right? Each individual should be judged. So when you turn on your television and you see defund the police, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is that evil? Right? Because what you're doing is you're judging a whole group of people based on what a few have done. And being the nice guy that I am, I look at an Afro-American individual and says, you're a child molester. He's taken aback. He goes, where'd you get this from? Why you? I said, I'm sure there's a black child molester. And since he's guilty, you are guilty. Why are you coming up? I said, that's the same standard you're using for the police. And you think it's okay. But when I apply what you approve of to you, look at your reaction. Look at your reaction. Because of that, every time this individual sees me, stay out of it. Stay out of it. Keep walking. You see, because they believe their own mess, their own statements to them now become true. Is that a real fact? Or I'm just saying that? What did Hitler say? This is a far cry from this, but I'm giving examples of what evil is. Tell the biggest lie you can and keep repeating it, and it will become fact. I'm just giving you examples from all things we know of. Just in case you think, oh, that was way back then. I could give you examples from 2 days ago. I could. Okay? But this is what happens. That we believe that we somehow, because of our knowledge, are untouchable. We believe that somehow, because we are with Christ, that none of these things will happen to us. Christ was with Christ, and the devil still went after him. Right? I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world if you worship him. Which tells you what's the greatest need that he has. He wanted Christ to worship him. He wants us to worship him. That's his greatest need. One way or the other, he'll do it even by, if he has to do it by proxy. By lack of knowledge, we might be what? Believing in something or someone that we look up to without going through this. Because this sets the standard. This book sets the standard. And if we don't know the standard, what the standard is, it's easy for us to be manipulated to head in a specific direction. So, in all things, go to God first, of course. I've seen that all the time. Personally, or with other people. The decisions we make in life affect us almost immediately. Yes. Right. And then you think God is not with us. He is. He's trying to help us. You're just, wanting to go in your own direction, not talking to him. I told my wife one time, I said, sweetie, when you give up a problem to God, don't stick your finger in it. Don't meddle. Because if you have given it up to him, and you're meddling and short-circuiting situations. Now, I'm not saying, listen, if you're in a problem with an individual and you got to go to court, you don't pray and not show up. You show up. You do your part. But the issues that we have zero control over, that's God's department. A lot of times I tell my kids, I said, when they have situations with other individuals, I said, son, just pray about it. I said, here's the thing. Do you know why this person started? No, Dad. Do you understand why they're... No, Dad. I have no idea. I've helped that person and yet this is what they're doing. I said, that's because he's in trouble. He will not bear the punishment or the result of his decision, so he's looking for somebody to blame because it's always somebody else's fault. But yet, what does the Bible tell you? Right? If you sin, ask God for forgiveness. You're admitting your sin. Okay? It tells you, even if he's taking you to court, meet him on the way there and do what? Try to fix the problem to take it out of somebody else's hands. Because the person sitting up there doesn't know you. Probably doesn't care about you. So he'll just make a decision completely outside of having any information about you. That you don't have any money, that you have sick kids, you have a lot of kids, whatever the case, and you cannot afford that. They don't know that. So God's telling you, listen, meet him on the way there. Do whatever you can to dismiss the situation. So he is aware. And he's giving you advice on how to handle these things. Advice that if you follow not, is to your own peril. Is it not? I know it's an easy statement to make, but if you read it, you own it. If you have the knowledge, you're responsible. It's yours. It's yours. And there's nobody that's exempt from those things. Nobody. Trust me. We all will get our own dose. Without fail. We'll get our own dose. And I'm only saying this that, man, that guy said something. What was it? Oh, God said this. You can forget everything I say, but never forget God said. Never forget that. Because I don't care what it is, you will find the information in the Bible. As a matter of fact, here's a little study you can look up. The founding document of this country is in there. The way the judicial system is set up, and it tells you to elect officials in the area. It tells you to elect or judicial individuals to represent them. And then even the smaller towns have a mayor. All this stuff is in there. It's unbelievable how much those founding fathers looked up in this book. And yet, what is it that you get from everybody else? They're womanizers, they're anti-Christian. As a matter of fact, none of them was a Christian. And then, because I don't know any information, I had to look it up. There's this guy, his name is Barton, you can look it up, he's got a lot of useful information. This guy owns over 120,000 original documents from the period. And he opens it and he reads it to you. While he was reading an article, I saw 3 cartoons in there. They weren't talking about the cartoons. One cartoon said, of course he's going to vote Democrat. And they had a black guy held by each arm, stretching him out like this, and a third guy with a gun to his head, saying, of course he's going to vote Democrat. And the next cartoon was an individual that was in a cemetery. He was with a pen and paper writing down names. He says, we'll get enough votes. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, that's what they're doing now. This is from the 1800s. It has not changed. They still use the same thing, and yet the other side has to learn and stop it right at its root. Okay? Folks, never forget these little steps that are the standard. Right? And it says, give thanks in all circumstances, because what? In having this knowledge, it will save us a lot of pain, a lot of hurt. Because the large majority, not all, is based on decisions we make. Next percentage is decisions other people make. Sometimes you get caught up in situations that you had nothing to do with. I was at the airport waiting for a flight. Little old man, blue shirt, I still remember, white hair, standing here, and I'm all the way at the end. And an individual, they had an international flight coming in, and when that happens, when you use your card to get through a door, it won't allow you to get through the door. It won't, and he kept doing it, and I'm watching him. And he was a worker for the company. And what he does next, he pushes the door, and it opens, and he goes through. While the door is open, as the coming through, they went through a door and came out all the way in front of the airport. And they go, I was there when they got a call. they have at least 20 people here that are wondering how do they get their bags. Police, DEA, all people, FBI, everybody showed up there and I'm watching this show. I'm going, man. And the woman at the counter said, it says it was him. The little old man in the blue shirt and white hair. It wasn't him. And I'm going, I don't want to get involved, but I really, really don't, because now you gotta stand there and give information over and over to different amounts of people. The fine for each individual is at least minimum 10,000, at least 20 people. So you understand why the company is all up in arms. And so he blamed the little man, the little guy. Not only did she blame the guy, but she turns around and if you don't believe me, ask him. That was me at the end of it. And I went, no. The cop turns around and looks at me. I said, no. Go look at your cameras. He said, listen. They're going to do that. He says, but I just want to get your story. I says, it's not her story. I can tell you that. He says, what do you mean? She saw it. I go, get the reading from the machine because it gives you the information. It says it was a worker. He had a yellow vest, and he went through there and described the individual. He went downstairs. He said, he's looking at me and says, you asked me, I told you no, but now you're asking me and you're looking at me strange because I got a whole different story. I says, that man had nothing to do with it. That guy's been standing there the whole time I've been standing here. Hasn't said a word, hasn't done anything. But he got blamed. So based on what I told them and they checked the door, they brought him out like this. Okay? You're getting involved, they're putting you in situations you had nothing to do with. And she swore on it. I saw him. Witness. Wow. An eyewitness. Something from her eye to her brain disconnected. Because what she said happened, there's nothing there. Nothing like that happened. Getting an honest individual there, just, I'm standing here doing nothing and yet I get paid. And then the other one was a lady that had closed the door and somebody pushed through the door, opened it, and these people just went their own way. And they blamed her again, the gate agent, because it's always somebody else's fault. Instead of looking what the problem is, what caused it, let's fix it, and they blamed her. And she starts, you could see tears welling up in her face because she's going to be fired. Okay. The company's not going to pay a couple $100,000 and we're going to be okay. You're not. And when the company exec showed up there and everything, I said, listen, this is none of my business, but I can't let you fire her. It wasn't her fault. I said, an individual pushed the door. I went through, and when he pushed the door opened and stayed open, and then these people were able to do this. But that lady said the same thing. It was her. You see, it wasn't her. And there are times, again, I don't want to get involved in things. But when you see a wrong to us, honest individual, you can't let it slide. You can't let it slide. Folks, I'll leave you with just the reading. Do not quench the spirit. Reject every kind of evil. Remember that. Remember, God has a standard. Anything that perplexes, confuses you, look it up. It's in there. Thank you very much. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. And for more, I won't see you next week. Time's up.
Well, we appreciate your time.
It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. I was telling Linda that I might be getting a couple weeks off. I'm not sure if I'll find out at the beginning of the month. So I'll probably fill in on those two weeks on the weekend. So I'll let you know if I get it. I won't know till the first week